Hello, my name is Richard Winter,
And I'm Wendy Munn.
and this is our genocide project for Bosnia. Now, when you think of genocide, most people refer to the Holocaust, which is where in a single area live several minorities or several ethnic groups. A particular ethnic group will take the burdens of all the others. And this is a concept called scapegoating, which is what we see as the source of most genocides around the world. So today we'll focus on Bosnia.
There's been a long history of tension in the Balkans between the Serbs, which were Christians, the Croats, which were Catholics, and the Bosniaks, which were Muslims. Tensions in the Balkans were common, but once President Josip Broz came to power in 1943, he ruled in order to ensure that no ethnic group dominated the country. Nationalism levels increased when President Josip Broz Tito died in 1980. The Republic of Yugoslavia's leaders gained power in the mid-1980s following the rise of Serbian leader Slobodan Milosevic. He changed the military so it was 90% Serbian and took control of all of the country's financials, mass media, and security structures in order to support Serbian nationalists in Serbia, Croatia, and Bosnia. He and other Serbian separatists in Croatia and Bosnia used their influence to increase the amount of ethnic tensions by convincing Serbian civilians across Yugoslavia that their Croatian, Bosniak, and Albanian neighbors would threaten their rights. In 1991, the Republics of Slovenia and Croatia declared independence from Yugoslavia, beginning the country's breakup. In the next month, Yugoslav's army, which was largely composed of Serbs and controlled by Slobodan Milosevic, invaded Croatia and justifying their act as means to protect Serbian minorities. The city fell, and the Serbs conducted mass executions of hundreds of Croatian men and buried them in mass graves. Many Bosniaks were driven into concentration camps where women and girls were systematically getting raped and other civilians were tortured, starved, and murdered. When Bosnia's independence from Yugoslavia was recognized by the US and European Union in 1992, Bosnian Serb forces backed up the Serb-dominated Yugoslav army immediately and launched offensives to control areas that they wanted. Following their independence, Serbian forces, accompanied by Bosnian Serbs, attempted to ethnically cleanse the territory of the Bosniaks. Using former military equipment, they surrounded Bosnia's capital city. Snipers hid in hills and shot at any civilians that tried to get water or food. Behind the front lines, Bosniak and Croatian civilians bore the brunt of Serbian assaults in what became known as ethnic cleansing, consisting of torture, rape, murder, robbery, and forced displacement. In the summer of 1995, the Bosnian Serb army prepared to capture and cleanse the 3 towns in eastern Bosnia that remained under the Bosnian government control. Planning for these offensives occurred even though the international community in 1993 had declared these enclaves safe havens. On July 11, 1995, Bosnian civilians fled the Serbian and advanced on Srebrenik and sought shelter at the UN base north of Srebrenik at Podokari. A column of Bosniak men, including some of which were armed, decided to try to walk to Bosnian government-held territory. By late afternoon, Serbian forces arrived at the gate of the UN base and that night terrorized, raped, and killed some of the Bosniak civilians that were sheltered at the UN compound. On July 12th, buses began to arrive at Podokari. The crowd was separated, and women and children were allowed to board the buses and were transported to Bosnian government-held territory. During the trip, the buses were stopped several times and searched. More men and women were taken off to be killed or raped. Men and boys were taken from the crowd at Potokari and were held by Serbian forces. Some were killed immediately, while others were bused to mass killing sites. On July 13th, the very next day, the remaining refugees were expelled from the UN base. The Bosniak men fled through the forest and encountered Serbian military units, and intense fighting occurred. Some men made their way to the government-held territory, while others died or surrendered to the Bosnian Serbs. The captured men were taken to execution sites and murdered. The killing operation continued for days.
So this research has led us to make our thesis statement, which is the Bosnia-Herzegovina genocide is an extreme form of discrimination that affects the world on a global scale. In the end, 100,000 people died. 80% of those 100,000 people were Bosniaks. In 1995, Bosnian Serb forces killed as many as 8,000 Bosniak men and boys from the town of Srebrenica. It was the largest massacre in Europe since the Holocaust. The fighting ended after NATO bombing campaign forced Bosnian Serbs to negotiate to the negotiation table, and a peace agreement, the Dayton Accords, was signed in 1995. Starting in April of 1992, Serbia set out to ethnically cleanse Bosnian territory by systematically removing all of the Bosnian Muslims, known as Bosniaks. Serbia, together with ethnic Bosnian Serbs, attacked Bosniaks with former Yugoslavian military equipment and surrounded Sarajevo, the capital city. All human beings are born free and equal, says Article 1 of the National Declaration of Human Rights. You are worth the same and have the same rights as anyone else. You are born with the ability to think and to know right from wrong. You should act towards others in a spirit of friendliness. Please ponder this and consider the information that we have given you. Do you think that the Bosniaks were treated in this way? Article 3. Everyone has the right to live, to be free, and to feel safe. How would you feel if you were a Bosniak in this situation? The genocide established two state entities, the Serb Republic, which includes Srebrenica, and the Bosnian Federation, which was joined by a weak central government. In 2001, ICTY ruled that genocide had occurred in Srebrenica. Judges have also ruled that rape was used by members of the Bosnian Serb armed forces as an instrument of terror, and a hellish orgy of prosecution occurred in concentration camps of northwestern Bosnia. In 2007, the International Court Justice System determined that Serbia violated the Genocide Convention by not doing enough to prevent genocide in Srebrenica. Over the better part of the next 2 decades, ICTY charged more than 160 individuals of crimes committed during the conflict in the former Yugoslavia. Before the tribunal in 2002 on charges of genocide, crimes against humanity, and war crimes, Slobodan Milosevic served as his own defense lawyer. His poor health led to his long delays in his trial until he was found dead in his prison cell in 2006. In 2007, the International Court of Justice issued its ruling as a historic civil lawsuit brought by Bosnia against Serbia. Though the court called the massacre at Srebrenica genocide and said that Serbia could and should have prevented it and punished those who committed it, it stopped short of declaring Serbia guilty to the genocide itself. As far as our works cited goes, we use the Holocaust Memorial Museum website, and thank you very much for listening.